Thank you so much, Sunil. Thank you everyone for being out here for my talk today. Today I'll be talking about how we could all learn from the autonomous vehicle industry. So before I continue, I've been in the shoes of, work. I started out my career, as a matter of fact, my desire for working with data started off from my career. I started off working as a reservoir engineer. I moved into doing production engineering, so working with data, building a simulation model and all that, that inspires you to dig more into data. But currently, I hold several roles at Hybrid Data. But Hybrid Data, we're a little startup at Los Angeles, California. Primarily, what we do is mining value from energy data, basically, leveraging big data, industrial Internet of Things, robotics, and obviously machine learning and artificial intelligence. So the great thing I like about, because previously whenever I talk about, the autonomous vehicle industry or self-driving cars industry, it's tough for people to really understand, how they all intertwine. With regards to oil and gas, but I'm happy, a lot of people yesterday, they spoke a lot about, how they're actually already even applying it and generating good amount of value from it. So I don't really talk so much about it. But what I just, captured here is just giving you guys a sense of feel of, these are known, they're not known autonomous vehicle companies. So this is, most people know about what they call Waymo, the Google, self-driving car projects. But why I captured these two companies here is just the kind of niche services they provide. So what Neuro does is it provides, so be it you want to you're a consumer, you want to get, certain grocery items, they help you pick it up autonomously, deliver it for you. Then for Voyage, what Voyage does is it's a self-driving car service, but tailored towards more the senior community. So at sometimes, at night, seniors, it's most times tough for them to drive. So that's what, Voyage does for you. There are a lot of, plethora of more of them. There's the company they call Cruise. There's just a lot of them. Aura, Aptiv, there's just a bunch of them. But mostly they are all into autonomous vehicle. There are also other autonomous companies that do also for trucking. And so other ones. So I'll just just give you guys a sense of feel of the core systems of an autonomous vehicle. So it's made up of mainly your perception system, your planning system, and your controlling system. Your perception system is most times just divided into two types of system, your detection and your localization. So your localization, you want to determine where your car is actually located. So you can now, traverse through the routes you already defined, for your cars or you estimated for your cars to move through. So in a self-driving context, you have a camera which can, detect the different lanes, detecting different traffic light signals, object tracking, if humans are, moving, or deers and all whatnot. Also, it's not just only about, detecting that to effectively determine where the car is. You also need a map of, what environment you're going into. From the output you get from your perception subsystem, you feed it into your planning subsystem. So your planning subsystem is almost really your brain, the brain of the car. That's where you determine one, you've already estimated, okay, I see there's no one on the left or no one on the right that you predicted. Then you now say, hey, what's the behavior? Do you go left? Do you go right? Using a whole bunch of different techniques. And eventually, you want to, move the car, accelerate the car. Different, control strategies you can employ, in doing that, which is what the control subsystem does for you. So now, just to kind of compare it to, in terms of oil and gas situation, because that might look as if, hey, we're talking about two different things. So this is just an extract of a presentation I gave a in the tech industry, they call it kind of white paper I gave like sometime in April about like how you can self-driving directional drilling, almost like geosteering. So basically, you have your MWD equipment, which under the hood has what they call IMU sensors, which even your self-driving cars use as the sensors. For your Likewise, too, you can have your logging while drilling equipment, which has like combination of, triple combo logs, gamma ray logs, and just giving you like a kind of feel of what the part of the perception system will be. So now you're detecting what different geological markers, like your geologist already mapped. You've already characterized, hey, what kind of fluids you're looking for. You've already also obviously that will be from your LWD, equipment, well collision, faults detection, and all that. I mean, you can do so many other different things. But we all know very well, right? For us to be able to navigate our beat, we actually want to know where it is on the, beneath the earth. And similarly, too, that's the same thing being carried out in self-driving cars. We know that normally before we go drill the wells, our geologists, they've already mapped, or more than likely the service companies, they've already generated the trajectories for us. So you have a combination of the maps and the sensor data you're getting. Now you're able to plan what routes you want to go through. The great thing is that you can plan multitudes of different routes that optimally lead you to whatever location you're going to. So now you've predicted, oh, okay, I see my oil and water gas contacts. This is where they are. Okay, do I want to rotate? Do I want to slide? So many different things. And obviously, if you're using your RSS2, you've defined, what kind of control strategy. PNID, MPC, or several different control strategies you can employ to steer your bits to, the pay zone you want to get to. So finally, just to round it up, I thought about it's even just beyond just talking about geosteering or talking about directional drilling. Even for your subsea ROV operations, the same type of you can really repurpose all what I'm talking about for your subsea operations. Similarly to we do shoot pipeline pigs. Depending on what schedule the operation folks plan within their calendar, but this is also the same. You can also apply the same techniques to be able to shoot your pipeline pig. So for instance, I think with current regulations in the U.S., you have to always provide the maps of where your pipes are being laid. So it makes it even a lot more easier because one, you already know the maps of where they are. It's just for you to track and be sure where your pigs are. And it can go even just beyond the subsea, the pipeline pigging operations to even well reentry, well walkover, and even abandonment operations. Not so much from me here, but I also included, the white paper I alluded to earlier, which I'll be making this slide available so you can also go in and, look at it more and get a better feel of, what all that entailed. That's all from me. Thank you. Excuse me. Huh? Yeah, I think so. Anyone can use this, right? Yeah. I could add to it. Yeah, a little bit too. I could add. I mean, with regards to FPGA, is that with FPGA, it's more or less depending on you already have like a defined set of, I mean, data processing workflows. That way, you can optimize your FPGA with in combination with your ASIC chip. You know, so it's almost like you have like a customized workflow versus you just going off the shelf with what's available. Oh.
So, so your question is about regulation? Okay. So so the law currently is very loosely written, and the only restriction really that will have any effect to that is the visual line of sight restriction. As long as the drone is within visual line of sight, you can fly it. But I think when it comes to regulation, it's pretty much dependent on the company that you're working with and how much you can work with them. Because for example, in agriculture, when we're flying over 300 acres, our loophole is the loophole we found in the law is that we will have a visual observer on the other side of the 300-acre field, so we never actually lose visual line of sight. So, yeah. So there's visual sensors on the drone, some drones, not this one, but there are plenty of commercial drones that actually have obstruction measurements, so they won't be able to collide with something. They're aware enough to know like, hey, there's an obstacle in front of me, there's an obstacle below me, to the left of me, right of me, behind me, and even if you try to get the drone to run into a wall, right, it will stop itself right there. So if the concern is about the drone crashing and hitting someone, um, I think the technology does exist where you can incorporate those sensors and prevent that from happening. And I think the same can be used for service companies that are doing pipeline inspection with drones to equip those sensors so accidents like that never happen. And it's also the responsibility of the service company to make sure that they're not pushing the limits of their batteries. If the battery's supposed to last X amount of minutes, always, fly under 10 from that, because that's how airplanes do it. You have 500 gallons of fuel to get from point A to point B, but FAA will require you to make that flight in 450 gallons and carry 500 gallons with you. So.
Just to add there, and asking probably validate that, I think the only incident he has had so far was in the lab, where he was trying to the drone and got busted. I don't think he has had any incident in the field, correct?
No, no incidents in the field. Only incident was in the lab, and to be like very accurate about what happened there, it was a calibration issue by the manufacturer, not something that we actually ended up doing.
Okay, so I have another question here. Maybe let me ask this and then you can ask. So this is on for drone again. For us. The question says, I have heard that drones will never be 100% impervious to attack. Is this true? Do you think this is a significant safety risk for any high-profile drone operation?
I want to say no, but it ultimately is computers running, and especially when you give them the ability to communicate on the internet. Again, I think it's the responsibility of the company operating the drone to make sure that their drone is secure from any sort of threats like that, because it is a device that is communicating with multiple networks, and I do think it is hackable, but it's preventable. So.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, John, I'm interested to know your views on the comparison between two different kinds of industries and their rate of adoption of these advanced techniques. So one of the industries, of course, is the consumer industry.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got millions of videos, short cycle times on assets. And then in our business, we've got much fewer customers. Of course, everybody's pumping gas. We're getting wells now. So our customer base is much smaller, and there's a lot of assets that are high investments that tend to last a long time, where people don't like asset obsolescence. Can you give me a comparison between rate of adoption between these two ends of the spectrum?
You go. Go first. Go for it.
No, I think autonomous.
Oh, okay. From what I can say is, first of all, obviously, right, the key thing, the challenge about, I think I echoed that to someone previously. One challenge with the oil and gas industry is just like we have like a lot of regulatory constraints. You can't just make up something and sell just like, in the consumer world. And I feel like there are so many different processes in place. Just like, John, you talked about it, like the system engineering, right? Even before you're installing a new, be it one new little equipment, you got to go through like, MOCs and all that, review everything, right? To be sure that no one is in danger. So I think it's related to like, the amount of the safety implications that, result from, altering one part of the process. So the adoption rate in something like the self-driving car now is, I would say it's been a lot more expedited. I don't know what happens with, when the tech companies come into like safety conscious industries, how they speed that up. So like for something like a self-driving car, they also have like functional safety groups that, occurs. We all know about, how we both evaluate risks and hazards. I mean, the three main sources of errors are either like from humans or from technology or from the interaction between human and technology. So, but with something like the autonomous vehicle industry, their rate of adoption of those technology, I want to say maybe probably the speed that comes with, the tech industry that, makes them, move a lot more faster.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that I think change is very difficult for established companies to have because they they're set in their own ways and how they're making their revenues for the year. But in an industry like agriculture, not much has really happened, and it's important to understand the psychology of the industry as well, and that's really important in agriculture because um, before you can even talk to a farmer, you have to establish trust. You have to establish a relationship, and then understand what their needs are, and then prove to them that you can actually end up saving them money, whether that be through free services like we're doing right now, or showing them that this is where the technology is at, this is where it's headed. So I think it's important to understand the psychology of the industry as well. Sometimes people do tend to forget that.
I would agree with that. The way we like to think about the adoption of AI and automation technologies is we think about companies that are pre-internet and post-internet. And so in post-internet companies, Amazon and Facebook, and they were created with their assets being data. They've been very quick to adopt and make intrinsic in their very enterprise using data analytics as a part of their business. That is their assets. But in pre-internet companies of all sorts, not just oil and gas, but in pharmaceuticals, in healthcare, in agriculture, it's been, I think, a lot more difficult for them to recognize that data is an asset and that should be leveraged in the way that's been talked about at this conference for the last 2 days. So there's always that, sort of societal acceptance factor that influences adoption, and I think in the pre-internet companies, it just takes longer.
Quick comment there. I think oil and gas has no other choice but to adopt technology. And working for Microsoft now, you see that there are some traditional industries such as car manufacturing industry that has been stagnant for a long time. And now by looking at companies such as Tesla, they're starting to move ahead and adopt these technologies. So
individual consumer, very small. Okay? So, in general, I mean, I would say industry adoption of the technology is increasing, but I think for the near future, the consumer adoption will be much larger, and then that is clearly reflected in the valuation that typically consumer-oriented technology companies get. Right? They're generally much larger than all the other industries combined together.
Sarah Turner from Monica and Payne. This meeting this morning is a really good picture of what happens all the time at these oil and gas conferences. Look to other industries and say, here's what we need to be doing to be like Microsoft, be like Amazon. And I think everyone in here has been in lots and lots of these similar sessions at conferences. So what I want to know is, does that apply to you all? Is there anything that you all have seen in the energy industry, maybe some disruptive technology or something like that, that you said, I want to take that and implement it in my industry?
You can go for it. You can go for it. So, for me personally, I think I would say safety. I'll say safety, you know. Then again, I mean, for me, I mean, like, you know, I echoed that yesterday. So I think the challenge is that, you know, here in oil and gas, we don't really understand the value of what we do, how we can be better than the so-called technology inclined companies. So like, I mean, I give an example of like the self-driving car. Literally speaking, to be honest, navigating the car, the self-driving car, it's a lot more easier than navigating the drill bit. Because navigating the drill bit, one, you're having challenges with network issues underneath there, right? For the self-driving cars, you have satellites, you have LTE networks, really great networks, you know, beaming the signals. Even the way I look at it, even for space, when you're launching the spacecraft to the space, you have satellites and ground stations. Oil and gas, we have maybe mud pulse telemetry, most people. If you have a lot of, you know, funds, you have like your wired drill pipe, which not everyone can, you know, afford. But what we still locate those hydrocarbons. Even right now, we're, you know, going. So I think, for me, I mean, I've been in the oil and gas industry. It's still part of it, and I understand the two sides. I'm also deep in tech. So, but yeah, back to your question, safety for me, it's like, you know, the number one that I would like to, you know, take to tech.
Well, I just wanted to echo the same concern that safety would be number one. There's a probably that I'm going to get killed on Mars. Everybody is looking at their phone and then writing down their name. So the next campaign is the next year's EnergyInData conference, but that's one thing I would take and adopt that in the tech industry.
I think, I mean, even today, one of the highest rate of accidents is people driving out of their garages, right, and killing the kids, right? So that's something that is ingrained in all oil and gas industry professionals, reverse spark, and if all of us adopted that at our homes, that will go down, right? And, you know, it's a fact that there is.
I would like to ask how this technology has helped us in day-to-day work, affected the life, and that what will happen to our, for example, legislation, to insurance structure, because this technology, this is new. I give you one example, autonomous car. Is there an accident? Who's going to be responsible? I mean, is it the people who write the code, write the program, or the company? Secondly, another example is what my friend addressed as
Like for autonomous vehicle.
on the government. They go
I'll talk to you later.
that really reach people professionally, people's security, things like that. How that has changed in our legislation, things like that.
talking too much.
Well, I think that's excellent question, and it's an open discussion. Tech doesn't claim to have all the answers. So, for example, the self-driving cars example, I don't think that anybody has the answer to your question. Yeah, I mean, those are open discussions. Still, I don't think anybody has an answer for that.
So,
These are policy issues, not technology issues, and maybe it's a question of technology being ahead of policy, and policy needs to catch up.
well, I'll try to link it back to technology, but I think, so we learned about this in our ethics class, about if there's a person in front of an autonomous vehicle, and the autonomous vehicle knows that if it goes right, it's going to kill its passenger, but if it goes left, it's going to save the woman or whoever's in front. So what decision does the autonomous vehicle make? Like, where are the ethics involved? And I think Mercedes-Benz is the only company that actually made the decision that they're going to make vehicles where the priority for the car would be to protect its driver. Because why would you buy a car if it's not going to protect you?
Well, just kind of to chime in, to be honest with you, I mean, especially from autonomous vehicle, perspective, the policies are really there. So there's what they call ISO 26262. So, we enjoy the cars. Some cars came without airbags. So constantly, they reevaluate, different ways you can make the car safe. So like currently, if you notice, be it Waymo or the earlier self-driving car companies that we're all aware about, they've not really deployed all their services, but maybe only where they've deployed their services are somewhere like Arizona, or maybe a little bit California, so certain areas. Like I talked about the Voyage company. So the Voyage company just operates for seniors. So within that senior neighborhood, people from, ISOs and all that, people in charge of, vetting those technologies to be sure that they are safe. They make sure they vet it, and that's why they've not rolled that all out.